Alright guys, welcome to part 2 of the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. If you haven't watched the first video, go ahead and click on the link in the description so you can see the first 3 habits. In the first 3 habits, you move from being a dependent to an independent person by being proactive, beginning with the end in mind, and putting first things first. The first 3 habits are about self-mastery. They help you become more effective as an individual by developing inner strength, character, purpose, and values. The next 3 habits that I'm going to cover in this video move you from being independent to being interdependent. Again, interdependence is the highest level of what Stephen Covey calls the maturity continuum. The maturity continuum consists of 3 levels: dependence, independence, and interdependence. Dependence is like the relationship between a child and a mother, or even sometimes between a boss and an employee. It's the attitude of you. To move from dependence to independence, you have to nail the first 3 habits. Again, be proactive, begin with the end in mind, and put first things first. This is the attitude of I. And then you have the next level, which is interdependence. This is where you're thinking like a team, a family and a teamwork mentality. We accomplish what we want together. It's the attitude of we. We can combine our different talents and our abilities to make something even greater. Habits 4 through 6 help you deal with people, teach you how to read the needs, and empathize and cooperate with people. They help you build strong relationships. Habit 4 is think win-win. There's 6 types of personal and business relationships. There's lose-win and win-lose, which is the typical mentality for most. In order for me to win, you have to lose. This is the mindset of someone is going to get the good end of the deal and someone is going to get screwed. This is a poor mindset to have, but people live with this outlook because most people have a scarcity mindset. They have a lack of abundance mindset. There's also the lose-lose relationship, which of course is no good for anybody. And I have a quick example for this one. I had a friend who got divorced and who was about to retire from the military. Instead of retiring and getting a pension, which half of it would go to his wife, he got out at 19 years and got no pension. In this case, they both lost out. Then you have the win, and this is not really a relationship at all. This is you just getting what you want and not providing value to anyone else, and it's pretty much just selfish. Next, there is no deal. This one's pretty much neutral. If you can't come to a deal where you both benefit, then there's no deal. And then we come to the best type of relationship, which is a win-win. We want to look for win-win relationships. We want to search for mutual benefit, and we need to have the mindset that there's plenty out there. There's abundance. We can share knowledge, we can gain, we can profit together. We don't need to crush each other out. We can work together instead. Life isn't a zero-sum game. So look at every situation with a win-win mentality. A quick example of a win-win is, hey, I buy a book for $20 and I get all this insight and knowledge, and the author also benefits by getting $20. So again, seek win-win relationships. If it's not going to be mutually beneficial, then default to no deal. Habit 5 is seek first to understand, then to be understood. Stephen tells a great story here. Stephen and his son have a talk, and Stephen can't get through to his son about some issue they're having. He then goes to a friend for advice. He tells the friend, I just can't understand my son sometimes. He won't listen to me. The friend says, hold on a second. Let me get this straight. You can't understand your son because he won't listen to you. I thought that to understand someone, you have to listen to them. That's a great point, isn't it? For us to understand someone, we have to listen to them, not the other way around. It's common sense really, but most of the time this is how our relationships play out. We often get mad at people because they don't think the way we think. We all see the world differently. We all see the world through our own perceptions and opinions based on our own experiences. You can't understand someone unless you really listen to them. Try to understand their perspective first. Try to understand how they're feeling and why. This is called empathic listening. This is the highest level of listening, the others being ignoring, pretending to listen, selective hearing, and attentive listening. None of those are very effective, but most of us listen using one of these levels. Most people don't listen with the intent to understand. We listen with the intent to reply before the other person even finishes. So before you judge, before you take action, before you contribute, just listen. So if your wife says, I hate my job, instead of providing advice or repeating what she said, which is a typical response, you rephrase the content and reflect the feeling and say something like, you're not enjoying your job and you're feeling upset about it. This gets you both on the same side of the table. You're listening with the intent to understand intellectually and emotionally, and then you can move forward to repair the situation. The time to be understood is when the conversation leads to logic and advice is requested. When you go down this path, maybe she'll eventually respond with, "Should I look for another job?" This is when you can seek to be understood. This is when you can provide your advice. But if it goes back to an emotional level, then you listen again empathetically until logic is brought back. This creates an atmosphere of caring. Habit 6 is synergy. The idea behind this is that different people bring different opinions, ideas, perspectives, and strengths to the table. Instead of simply tolerating or accepting these differences, we should celebrate them. We should value these differences. This is what any good CEO does. They get their different subject matter experts and get their input to come up with the best solution. Another way to think of synergy is when you put two pieces of wood together. One piece of wood by itself isn't that strong, but when you put two together, the overall strength increases by more than 2 times. With synergy, 1 plus 1 can equal 3, 10, or 100. Think of how individual units can work together to create something even bigger. Another example is the human body. There are many individual parts that are amazing in their own right, but all the parts together create something amazing. So again, habits 4 through 6 deal with relationships. These 3 habits can help you have effective and interdependent relationships with others. The last habit, habit 7, is to sharpen the saw. Let's say you see a guy cutting down a tree with a dull saw. You say, "Hey, why don't you sharpen that thing? It's going to take 6 hours at this rate." He says, "I don't have time to sharpen it. I have to cut this tree down." You explain, "If you spend 1 hour sharpening that saw, it'll only take you 3 hours to cut down the tree. You don't have time not to sharpen the saw." This example can be applied to our lives on many different planes. We are the instruments, and we have to regularly sharpen 4 areas, and these areas fall into quadrant 2 activities. Physical, find the importance of it. Again, it's not urgent, but it's important. You can either exercise and feel good now, or pay for it in 30 years when you're in a hospital with all kinds of physical ailments that you could have avoided. The next area is spiritual. Ask yourself, contemplate, who am I? Where am I going? Meditate, prayer, music, art, and so on. The next one is cognitive health. Continue to learn, to explore, to expand, educate yourself, immerse yourself in another culture, teach others. And the 4th one is social health. This is relationships, living interdependently, spending time with family and friends. With all 4 of these areas, think continuous improvement. We must continually renew ourselves, and the best way to unleash your future potential is by investing. Invest in yourself. Strive for continuous learning and improvement. Doing so renews each of the other habits as well. This habit keeps you fresh so you can handle the other 6 habits. Make these 7 habits a part of your life. Don't just attempt to understand them intellectually, try to live them. Apply these habits and teach them to others, because the best way to learn is by teaching it to someone else. This is a lifelong process that requires patience. It's not a quick fix, it won't happen overnight, and it will be a challenge. As you continue down the path, you'll hit obstacles, and you'll fall back a time or 2. But this is necessary. Old habits will pull you down, but don't give up. Keep pushing yourself, and you'll hit new heights and levels of effectiveness. As you progress, be open to self-discovery and be open-minded.